Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole Frolic of Inflexible Me, and I am on my way out the door, but I wanted to give you guys a video because I didn't get one out last week. I was sick, I had a head cold, flu symptoms. I gotta say, I don't know where it came from because it's 90 degrees outside and it feels really weird having a cold in the middle of summer. Well, not the middle of the summer, but still, it's like summer out there. So anyway, I'm better now. I'd like to say though that my energy, even though I was sick, was still really positive. Not feeling like the lows of August at all. September's definitely better. But today I wanted to do a video on the fact that there is literally a war on our consciousness right now. And I wanted to give you guys some tips that have helped me in my process of discernment in what may be true and what isn't. Now, I'm not saying that I always figure out the truth, because that's certainly not the case. Sometimes I get it wrong, but that's the whole point of discernment. The only way to strengthen that muscle is to use it. And sometimes we get it wrong, but if you get it wrong, at least it means you're trying. So that's one thing to be happy about. So I'm going to give you guys 10 tips that maybe you know already, but you're not quite sure how to maybe tell friends, family, coworkers who you know are under the influence of like this mass media programming that's going on that is literally a war on our consciousness, and want to give them some tools to better equip themselves, to help them kind of awaken a little bit, understand how to discern truth. So the first one that we need to really understand is our awareness. It is so important to be aware of the fact that there are false narratives being thrown at us day in and day out. Okay, there is a constant barrage of false narratives. And we have been taught as a society, as well through our family, that we must trust authority. In our institutions, we're taught that. And we're not necessarily meant to question authority. One of the things my parents used to say to me all the time, because I'm known as a conspiracy theorist in the family, is that they would say to me, Nicole, you know, the government would never do that to us. And to believe that an authority figure always has your best interest at heart, especially when that authority figure is gaining more and more power and money, is a very naive place or stance to take. So always know that the only authority that you need to answer to is, in my opinion, God, source, creator. And because we all come from that, then it becomes your connection with you and your higher self. To me, that is the number one authority that we should always be answering to. And so, yes, we do have this respect for people who've come ahead of us and maybe have more wisdom and experience of certain things, which is great, but always important to question things. There is nothing wrong with questioning things. In fact, it strengthens your critical thinking. If someone does not want you to question things, there is not a good agenda behind that. They do not have your best interest at heart. So stay away from people who keep telling you how to think. If they're not promoting, individual thinking and really want you to go along with what they're thinking, then that's that's not a safe place to be in. For instance, on my podcast, we have a skeptic on there who presents a differing point of view than what I myself and also Lisa has on the thing. Now, my job on the show is not to convince him to not be a skeptic. In fact, my job is not to convince anyone. I'm simply just sharing my information. And if it resonates with anyone who's listening, great. If it doesn't, discard it. That's the general rule for everyone. If it doesn't feel right, it doesn't resonate with you, discard it and move on. So understanding that there are these false narratives out there means that you have to start figuring out and discerning what is true narrative and what is not. So that is the first thing that we need to be aware of. The next thing that we want to be aware of is the fact that there are people and companies out there who are presenting themselves as imposters or deceivers. So what they like to do is they like to present themselves in a way that appeals to you emotionally, appeals to you intelligently, and appeals to you visually, believe it or not. And so if these people are presenting themselves in a way that is done to gain your trust, but their messages may not be in your best interest, how do you discern that? Well, you need to start asking the question, What does this person gain or company gain from giving me this information? Does this information serve their highest good and my highest good, or does it only serve their highest good? These are a couple questions that you want to ask, and look into the people who are giving you this information. If they report often, look at their stories and look at their viewpoints and see if it all resonates. See if they are consistently leaving out pertinent information. Do they give you lots of sources, lots of links to look at? You know, if they're trying to give you all of this information that is factual, then where are the facts? Where are they getting these facts from? So very important to understand that there are people out there to act as imposters, and it's our job to discern whether or not this person is coming at us from a standpoint of truth or the intention to deceive us. So then the third point is that it's very important to understand that the mainstream media, and I do include other forms of alternative media in the mainstream media, okay? It's not just the mainstream. There are alternative forms of media that have been around for a while that also do not have your best interests at heart. It is so important to diversify where you're getting your information from, because these media sites or companies, their job is not to inform you. Their job is to disinform you. So when you realize this, then you can be like, okay, where is the real information at? So how do we do that? We go and we search a lot of different sites. And I know one of the biggest problems is, because my friend and I had this discussion. We had a bit of discord a week or two ago. It actually worked out really well. We had a very great conversation, but there was some discord, which I think there's a difference between healthy discord and unhealthy discord, and this was actually healthy discord. And finally, you know, one of his issues was like, well, I don't have the time to go out and research all this stuff. And unfortunately, that's actually one of the tactics of mainstream media, is they know that you don't have the time to go out there. And why? Because society has been built for us to work, 40 plus hours a week. If we do have downtime, we're inundated with mindless activities, whether it's TV shows, movies, music, things that really don't stimulate our mind, so that we're thinking about things differently. And so they prey on this fact. Now, the reason why I think it's important to really go to different sites, even ones that actually differ from your point of view, okay? So for instance, I do not like CNN. I refuse to really watch it too much. However, I will go and read certain articles or sometimes watch clips of their videos to understand why they're feeding that narrative and where they got it from, and then go and find other sources that conflict with that or contrast that, and then take from that what I can and understand. It's very important to understand the other side, which brings me into probably like my next point. But just remember that there is actually benefit from understanding differing points of view. We need to keep the dialogue open, and that sometimes means that we need to be aware of what differing point of views are trying to express. So one of the reasons why I don't like CNN is, in this case brings me to my next point, is they use emotional triggering, as most of the other networks do as well. And even mainstream alternative media as well uses. And Alex Jones is known for using emotional triggering. He gets super emotional. And, he's been under fire for some stuff lately. And the reason why I don't like watching either of those is because of the emotional, energetic attacks that are happening through there. So if someone is delivering their message to you with the idea to manufacture outrage from you, to get your emotions riled up, that is not a good thing for you. To tap into your energy field and take you into a state where you may be neutral or calm or having a good day and take you into some emotional hijack roller coaster ride is not beneficial to you. I don't care if the information is true and what they're telling you. It's not healthy for you energetically. And if it's not healthy for you energetically, it begs the question of, does this person actually have my best interest at heart, or are they serving themselves? This is a very important question to ask yourself when you're getting your information from other sources. So I tend to go to sources where I feel like if it's an article that's being written, that it's written not emotionally charged, that it's more factual, and that they are also providing links and sources to that to prove that it's factual. Or I like to go watch videos on YouTube, other ones where the people just can deliver the content pretty plainly, you know, like not a lot of emotions, maybe a little humor here and there, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. In fact, I think it's engaging the viewer to actually pay attention. But they're not taking you on some emotional roller coaster ride of highs and lows, taking you into fear porn, making you angry, inciting anger in you, inciting outrage, perhaps taking you down into the saddest place that you could possibly be, just so that maybe you'll like react and do something in another way. So these are things to be very, very important, very, very aware of. Now, the next thing is be aware of the fact that media is preying on the human need to belong and to be liked. We as a society don't want to be ostracized from society. We don't want to not be liked. This is a very basic human nature. This is also something that is understood when trying to tap into someone's psyche to sell them something. And so, you know, just look at like Coke commercials or something like, you know, when I was growing up, Coke commercials were actually one of my favorite because it just looked like everyone who was drinking Coke was having a good time, and they were like hip and cool, and they were like big communities and everyone was getting along. And I was like, oh, I want that. You know, I want to be in a community where like I've got friends and people like me. And this is the way media taps into your basic human need to be liked as well as accepted. And so how they do this is making sure that you go along with the majority thinking. And when I say majority, I'm using air quotes around that, because sometimes what is portrayed to us as majority thinking is actually not really the majority thinking. It just happens to be that there are a lot of media outlets that are pushing that story so that you believe it, but it's actually not true. And that's actually happening right now. And so understanding that this need to prey on your need to be liked and accepted is one of the tactics is very important. And it helps you understand that, you know, if I were to go against this, how would other people like view me? Would people like look at me as a conspiracy theorist? Would people look at me like I don't care? That's another one of the things is that, you know, they like to manufacture outrage through their delivery. And if you're not someone who gets on board and gets behind it, like for instance, maybe it's race baiting, okay? And they're race baiting their audience and you just see right through it and you're like, that doesn't exist. And, you know, you say it to someone who totally is buying that narrative, they're like, you're a racist. You don't believe that? You're a racist. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Right? Not necessarily to be calling someone a racist just because they don't agree with the way someone is delivering their message or the content is a very dangerous place to start moving into, and very dangerous way of us labeling and character assassinating, which is another big thing, character assassination. They love to character assassinate everyone who doesn't agree with their line of thinking. If people are name calling, that's a really low form of, what's the word I'm looking for? Supporting your ideas and beliefs. If you have to resort to name calling, then it just goes to show that you actually don't even know why you believe what you do. Because if you did, you'd be able to support it with actual factual evidence. And so we see this a lot, and it's because, you know, you've emotionally triggered someone, and you may not have emotionally triggered someone on purpose. to be quite honest, a lot of people are emotionally triggered because they're watching the news so much and they're watching all this mainstream crap. And so when you have like topics come up in friendly conversations where you could just have a very intelligent conversation with someone, the emotions are instantly triggered because you've associated this topic now with having outrage, and you're instantly taken into that place. Okay, so this is one of the things, this is actually another tactic that they use, which I'm going to get into later on, to keep everyone divided. So be aware of that. Okay, so the next one is called is obviously cherry picking. You're going to see that. You're going to see this all the time in main media, is that they're cherry picking the information that they're giving you, and they're not that way. They're not giving you the whole story. They're only giving you the portions that support the narrative they want you to believe. Like this has been happening since the beginning of time. This is not new. This is a tactic known to anything. I mean, we've all done it in our lives. You know, we may have told a couple lies, maybe have omitted certain information just so that someone like maybe believes our story. Like I just think back to when I was a kid and a teenager, and you know, you're gossiping and you're telling your friend, I can't believe she did this. And you may not say everything that you did, but you're going to just say everything they did. And you're not, and this person isn't going to get the whole story. I mean, this happens all the time, right? Well, cherry picking is used in mainstream media all the time to make sure that you don't get all the information needed so that you form your own opinion, your own idea or belief of what's actually happening. And so you see like things being taken out of context because they're only being showed, you're only being showed like one aspect of it. And so this is not something else to be looking out for. The next thing you want to be looking out for is called enemy patterning. Now, enemy patterning is meant to cause division. How enemy patterning is formed is by making sure that people either that there is a victim and that there is a perpetrator. So it's really using the victim perpetrator archetypes. Now, when this happens, when a victim and a perpetrator get in the same room and start talking, what happens? Blows up. The victim can't believe how like you as the perpetrator could be so mean and so out of touch with the empathy and the need to like really resonate with them or relate to them, and how could you do this to them? And then the perpetrator is just like, I didn't do anything to you, this isn't my fault, you know, and so there creates this discord, this battle already, and this need to attack one another, and that is enemy patterning, when you are attacking one another. And that's why they want, this media wants to create this division so that you're divided to attack the opposition. And the reality is, when you really look close, even when you go into gender, even when you go into races, even when you go into political ideologies, religious beliefs, all of that, at the end of the day, for the most part, everyone is pretty much coming or has like the same kind of goals. It's just the narrative is so different and it's distorting the truth. And so we come at it through this perception of distortion of what the other person actually believes, when in fact, they actually don't believe that, but they're programmed to believe something else. And it's just like this programming is just created to distort the truth in how we perceive one another and how we perceive like what's true and what's not true. So really be aware of enemy patterning. If you feel like you are in attack mode or being attacked, there is likely enemy patterning that has been programmed into you through this media stuff. So really important to pay attention to that. Okay, the next one is champion the victim archetype. So I just finished talking about the victim archetype. Now I've talked about this in a couple other videos, and I can't stand the perpetuation of victimhood. It is running rampant in our society right now, and media is one of the biggest perpetrators behind pushing this agenda of making everyone feel like they're a victim. And the reality is that you need to understand that if someone or some sort of company is pushing a victim narrative onto you, that they want you to believe you're a victim of something, there is a reason for this. And the reason is that in the victimhood mentality, the level, okay, I'm going to go into the energetic point first. Now, if any of you guys have watched my video on the levels of consciousness, I've got 2 videos out there. I also have a course in my online school that you can like download yourself just to go through on your own on the levels of consciousness. It really helped me understand why you really want to keep your energies in a much more constructive, positive place, and how like each emotion is designated into certain energy levels. Well, one of them is apathy, and it's one of the lowest ones, okay? And when you're in, when you subscribe to the victimhood archetype and mentality, you are resorting to this emotion and level of energy of apathy. Now, when someone's apathetic, they're not likely to take action on anything. They feel really sorry for themselves, and they just don't feel like doing anything for themselves. And they feel like they're helpless, that, you know, everything is being done to them. They haven't created anything in their life to be in the circumstance that they're in. And a lot of this, you know, we can see because apathy is rooted in depression. And there is so much depression happening out there. You know, so many people are feeling depressed. And a lot of it comes from this idea of what the media has been programming into us, whether it's movies, whether it's TV, whether it's the news, you know, advertising. Like, we're bombarded with this stuff. And the reason why you need to understand why you should not and do not want to subscribe to the victim mentality is because that means that you are less likely to take action, which means there's no need for you to fight back against anything because you don't even have the energy to fight back. And that's exactly what the powers that be, you know, the controlling elite, the globalist elites who have all the power right now, have all the resources to put out this programming, want from you. They don't want you to start a revolution. They don't want the people to come together and start talking and have this morale, this raising of morale that takes you out of the apathetic mode. And you start to move up the levels of consciousness into courage, which is the first level that is constructive energy, okay, where you start to make constructive choices. They do not want you in there. So be aware that if you are subscribing to the victim mentality, you are really doing yourself a disservice, whether you believe you are a victim or not. Okay, I'm not saying that there aren't true victims out there, but subscribing to that mentality does you no good. You've got to find a way to get out of it. And if it means finding people who can support you, help you, and that is in itself is if you're looking for support, if you're looking for people to help you out of it, that just shows that you're starting to make your way out of the victimhood because you want to take charge. You want to change your circumstances. And that in a level means that you on some level understand that you have the power to change it. Okay, now the second last one that I want to talk about is understanding that there are technologies out there, they've been out there for a while, that are designed to know you better than you know yourself. And we're looking at Facebook and Google are just 2 of the ones that are, you know, front and center right now in the news. And I know Facebook has been under fire for collecting so much data from us over the last, 10 to 15 years. And they've been amassing that data. They know everything that you like. They know everything that you dislike. They know where you travel. They know where you eat. They know who your friends are. They know probably your political beliefs. They know your social beliefs. They know, they just know everything about you. And the danger of that is that this AI was essentially created to get into your psyche in such a deep level that they knew how to program you. And they know exactly how to deliver their messages through the media so that it hits you in a way that resonates with you. And that is like something to be very aware of. You know, Google is constantly tracking you, whether in your search engine, what you're tracking. And through that, they know where you're going, they know your beliefs, they know what you're doing. And all of this is designed to get into your mind and know how to basically get to the depths and how to reach you through the programming, because everyone's different. And so when they know you better than you know yourself, that's a pretty scary thing. So that's important to be aware of. So when you're aware of that, then you can start avoiding certain things. Like, for instance, like with Google, stopped using Google and started using DuckDuckGo, or Brave, or like other companies. Like for me, I'd love to get off Facebook. I am just dying to like delete my account. But right now I'm just using it just to like get my message out there. That's really the only reason. I could care less about like any of the other stuff that I used to love Facebook for. Because now that I just understand the nefarious acts behind it, just really leaves obviously a sour taste in my mouth, extremely sour taste in my mouth, but also like I just feel very violated. And I just don't want them to get any more information from me. I mean, I pretty much probably have it all, but still, at some point we have to take a stance. So that's really important to understand. And then the last thing that's so important for us to understand about this war on consciousness is understanding the power of your subconscious. This ties everything all together. We like to think, especially some people who consider themselves a lot more intelligent than the average person. Like if you've gone to some like alumni university or college or something, and you've got like all these degrees, and you may just think, like, well, I'm super smart. This could never happen to me. Newsflash, it's happening to you. It's happening to everyone. Okay, the subconscious is something that we are, as through the media programming, is dumbing us down to not be aware of the thoughts that are going on in the background. And I mean the deep background. We've got so many things that we're distracting ourselves with. We're distracting ourselves with social media. We're distracting ourselves with TV. We're distracting ourselves with any activities that we could do when we're not at work. Work is distracting us. There's so many things, like life just has gotten so busy that there is no time to actually pay attention to the background programming of our subconscious. And that programming happens 24/7 from the minute you were in your mother's womb. Okay, so we are programmed through our family, we are programmed through our institutions, we are programmed through religion, we are programmed through main media, we are programmed in all ways through society. And it's done on such a subtle level at many times that we don't even realize that programming is going in until we pay attention to the messages or the thoughts and the beliefs that we may have about ourselves, that we may have about other people. And you don't even know that it's there until you take a moment to actually listen. And so understanding how easy it is to get into the subconscious. For instance, when I'm at the airport, because I do a lot of traveling, is I will not, absolutely not sit near a TV that has CNN on, even if I've got my headphones in, because I know that our consciousness is embedded in our cells, which means that our body is hearing, even if our ears aren't hearing it, the body's picking up the energy vibration, okay? The body hears it. That's why we're told to talk to our body, to say positive things, like I've got a really healthy heart. I have, really, whatever it is, okay? The programming goes that deep and that subtle at the same time. So knowing that if you are someone who constantly has the news in the background, whether it's at work, maybe it's a radio station. Radio stations are playing all the time. Music industry. Oh my God, the subtle messages that are embedded in our music, are attacking our subconsciousness and putting these program messages into us, and we don't even know it. Like one day you'll just have this song in your head and you don't even know why you're singing it. And that is part of programming. And it's the way to subtly get into your head and over time have you repeating these ideas, repeating these thoughts so that they become yours. And then you identify with them and you believe that they're yours. And they were never yours. They were put there through the subconscious programming. So this is something to be really aware of. And I just wanted to put this video out today because the war is real. The war is in full effect. And because you're seeing a lot of resignations happening right now, people stepping down in high executives stepping down from big companies that own a lot of money, there's big stuff happening. And so there is the people who are used to having all this power and control are now at risk of losing it all. And I believe they are going to lose it all. And the only way that we can do our part is to step away from this media programming and arming ourselves and equipping ourselves with everything that we possibly can to increase our discernment muscle and to be doing our part to make sure that we are not attacked. Because when you're allowing this programming to happen, it's attacking your sovereignty. It's attacking your own individual sovereignty, because they're getting into your mind and they're putting these ideas and thoughts in there that aren't yours. And eventually, over time, they become yours. And you think that they're yours, and they're really not. They're really not. So anyways, I just wanted to put that out there. And I hope this video is helpful to any of you. Now, do keep in mind, if you do want more information on this idea of levels of consciousness, I can't even express to you guys enough how much it really helped me understand the importance of keeping my energy up, to understanding when I'm being brought down into fear or anger or guilt or shame, and why I don't want to do that to anyone else, why I don't want to try and incite anger in someone else, why I don't want to make anyone feel ashamed for anything. You know, just understanding, because we're a collective. And if one person's feeling it, it's actually bringing the whole collective down. So we want to work together, especially all of us light workers. Our mission here is to uplift and to bring up. So be mindful of that. And so if you want to learn more about that, I do have 2 videos on this YouTube channel that are on the levels of consciousness, but then I go into much greater depth in a webinar that I have for sale in my online academy as well, which all the links for that are down below. And if you guys are interested, check out my podcast. It comes out every Thursday. It's in iTunes, called Enlighten Up. It has the 2 opposing opinions or points of views of the skeptic and the fringe believer. And you know, what I really love about that is that it shows that you can still have healthy discord with someone who doesn't see things the way you do. And it's never about convincing someone to see your point of view or them trying to convince you to see their point of view. It's about just accessing different ideas and opinions so that you can start to have more knowledge and access to information that will help you decide what is true and what is not true for you. So that's it for today, guys. Love you all. I hope to maybe get out another video soon. I'm going to try and make up for the fact that I didn't get one out last week, and maybe give you guys a double header this week. But until then, I love you all and have a wonderful week, and be well, be safe, and be strong in your discernment.